Brachas Membeis Amud Aleph. We're about 10 lines before the Mishnah, about 2/3 of the way down. There's 2 dots over there somewhere. Amar Rav. Says Rav, Haragel b'shemen, someone that usually uses oil, we'll see what that means, shemen ma'akvai. Then the shemen is ma'akav, you need shemen. Says Rashi, Haragel b'shemen, limshoyach yodav achachila. It doesn't mean they drink shemen, they don't drink the oil after the meal. After the meal, they rub their hands in oil, moisturizing cream, to clean their hands. They use this oil, whatever it was, so that they can have clean hands when they bench, right? So if you usually use shemen, then shemen's ma'akav. Says the gemorah, Amarav, one second. I was by Rav Kahana. Like me, the regilim b'mishcha. Mishcha makvalan. I'm used to using oil. Therefore, the shemen is ma'akav. I need to use shemen. Says Rashi, shemen ma'akvai. What's going on over here? Le'egin bracha. We're talking about here, what's in ma'akav? As far as benching goes, shafilu gomar v'silek. Even if you've cleared the table off. You've cleared the table. And you finish eating. But you didn't yet rub your hands in the oil. Yeshivs achronim. So you can still eat. Let's say you have some more chips. As long as you didn't rub your hands in the oil, you can eat. You don't have to make a bracha. So Rashi, the implication here, by the way, is important. The implication of Rashi is that if you make a bracha, let's say you do rub your hands in oil, now you just make a bracha rishayna. You carry on eating, but you're going to say bar piadoma. You're going to say shakol on the chicken you're going to eat now. But not that you have to bench. You're not allowed to eat at all until you bench. There are those that have that opinion. Machlekes. Some say it's asalachol, meaning we saw before asalachol, meaning once you said by machlekes, once you said like Rabbeis and Nevarech, now it's also to eat. Benching doesn't help you. Let's keep going. So Gemara says now, we don't pass like all these different dinim we had till now, that clearing the table, rubbing hands with oil. Ella, kihad Amar V'chia bar Ashi, Amar Rav. V'chia bar Ashi says in the name of Rav, Shalosh Tchifay said, there's 3 things which are takif. Takif means techef, immediate. 3 things you got to do immediately. Or 3 things are immediate, rather. Techef, until it's yadayim bracha. Sorry. Techef is smicha shchita. When you do smicha on the carbon, you're supposed to lean on the carbon before you shech it. As soon as you lean, shech straight away. Don't waste any time. Techef legula tefillah. As soon as you say, Baruch Hashem, blessed you Hashem, Gal Yisrael, you Redeemer of Israel, straight away you got to pray. Don't wait. Straight away you pray. As soon as you wash your hands, bracha. The implication here meaning, as soon as you, it's a machlekes what it means really, but as soon as you do mayim achronim, as soon as you wash your hands, you finish your meal, you got a bench. Some say, what about techef mayim rishonim? Why isn't it added in there that as soon as you wash your hands for tzedayim, you got to say hamaytzi and eat the bread? Some say, that's the din. As soon as you wash your hands, for a mate, you got to eat. The Rosh says you can drink after you wash your hands. So it's not techef, just you can't talk, but you're allowed to drink. Some say it means both. Techef tizdaim bracha means, techef tizdaim bracha means at the beginning and at the end, in both cases. It doesn't specify it, but it means as soon as you wash, bracha. Brachas hamaitzi or brachas hamazon. Both. So you see from here that techef tizdaim bracha means you're done. Once you wash, it's all over. Shenema, and the third one is rather, Techef, Amar Abaye says, Amar Abaye, Af Anu Nema, Techef, the Talmud Chacham Bracha. There's another Techef. As soon as you have a Talmud Chacham in your house, you get bracha, your house is blessed. It's immediate. Shenemar, why is it immediate? Or we're going to see exactly. Remember, you have a chen Hashem biglalecha. Who said this very chen Hashem biglalecha? Lavan. Take a look in the pasuk. It's on the side over here in some gemaras. V'yema elav Lavan, im no matzasechem beinecha, nichashtani. Nichashti v'vachem Hashem b'galecha. Lavan says, Hashem blessed me because of you. So how did Lavan know that Hashem blessed him because of Yaakov? Because it was immediate. It's techef. It's immediate. The second this Talmud Chacham walks into your house, all of a sudden there's bracha in the house. Everything starts flowing smoothly, and there's shefa and there's bracha. He's like, hey, it's for you. I guess that's why it has to be techef, right? It's going to be techef. Otherwise, this Amar it isn't going to know, because the Talmud Chacham will say, oh, I had a good year. Why? Because 6 months ago I had a Talmud Chacham. He's not going to think like that. He's going to think I did a good deal. I got lucky. So as soon as you have a Talmud Chacham in your house, boom, bracha straight away. That's one pasuk. There's a different opinion. It's from this pasuk. It says, Hashem has beitz ha-mitzri biglal Yosef. Hashem blessed the house of the Egyptian biglal Yosef. So why would you need two psukim? What's the difference between these two psukim? The second story is more famous, is just as famous, that Yosef was in the house of the Mitzri, Potiphar's house, and Hashem blessed Potiphar's house. Everything in the house was blessed. Potiphar became a rich guy, right? So what's the difference in these two psukim? Why would you have two different psukim? What's nafka mina? So the first pasuk, I'm just realizing now, is that Lavan says himself, now, is it for the first pasuk? Maybe it's the guy who's doing it, he's doing the hosting. He should know it's because of Talmud Chacham. He said, right? But in the Mitzri's house, he didn't know, the Potiphar didn't know he was blessed because of Yosef. The pasuk says, the Torah says Hashem blessed him because of Yosef. Wasn't that the Potiphar says I was blessed because of Yosef? That's maybe one reason what the difference between these two psukim. Will the guy himself know or will he not know? So if he doesn't know, in the case of Yosef, if he doesn't know, so what's the point of the bracha? Why is he being blessed? Not for him. Hashem doesn't care about the guy. Maybe it's for the tzaddik. The tzaddik should be in a more comfortable, more relaxed environment with more shefa. That's why Hashem blesses the guy. Look, maybe that's a shot. So in that case, so what's the difference between Potiphar and Lavan? There's a simple difference. Lavan took Yaakov into his house, gave him his daughter from Rotzen. He wasn't forced. He was doing it. He was being nice to him, right? He accepted him. He gave him his daughters. He made a deal with him, right? Yaakov was happy. He wanted to be there. But Yosef, he was a slave. He didn't have an option, right? Potiphar wasn't a good guy. He's hosting him. But still he was blessed. Just the fact he has a tzaddik in his house, he was blessed. Even though he was a slave master, but if your slave is a tzaddik, his slave is a tzaddik chacham, you'll be blessed anyway. It's interesting musag. I heard of Avigdor Miller saying that in Slobodka 100 years ago or so, the Talmid Chum used to walk through field to get to yeshiva, certain fields. He used to go through a certain path. And then for some reason, I can't remember the story exactly, but for some reason they had to start taking a different path. And those field owners, those Gentile field owners, they freaked out when the Jews stopped walking through their field, because all of a sudden their crops started dying and withering, and they saw tremendous shefa when the Talmid Chacham walked through the fields. They wanted them to come back, and they tried to, sort out the issue, whatever it was, that they should be able to walk through their fields, because they had tremendous shefa from it. All right. Big machlokes, if someone says, Rabbeisa nevarech, Havla nevarech, is that the end of Yisuda? Are you allowed to carry on eating? So l'chari, you can't eat anymore. You said Havla nevarech, Rabbeisa nevarech, Rabbeisa bilbenchen. That's it. You're done. You can't eat anymore. Rashi says it's hes chadas. You're done, right? The idea is once you finish eating silika shulchan, or you say Havla nevarech. Taisa says that you can eat. You're just going to make a bracha r'shayin. Rashi seems to imply that you can't eat b'chlal. Just the zaitika sugya. Also, same to do Mayim Achronim. After you do Mayim Achronim, Rambam says after Mayim Achronim, it's also lechol. You do Mayim Achronim, you can't eat anymore. The implication is in the Rambam, you can't eat, you can talk. You do Mayim Achronim, you can't eat, right? End of Suda. But can you talk yet? He doesn't say you can't talk. The Rosh says it's a hesach hadas. You can't talk either. According to the Rosh, you can't talk either. Mayim Achronim. So big machlokes. Doesn't mean you can't eat, you can't talk. What's the hefs? What is it? L'chayra, our gemorah is just mashma. You can't eat. That's it. It's the end of the Suda. Rosh takes it to be that now you're not allowed to talk between washing and brichas hamazon. Techaf l'ntilas adayim, bracha, meaning you do my machayim straight away brachas hamazon. Okay, let's take a look at the Mishnah. A guy makes a bracha on wine before he eats. Before you bench. So what are we talking about over here? A guy makes kiddush before the meal. A guy is drinking wine with his friends before he sits down to eat. Then he has a suda. So that wine, the bracha he made before the Motzei Chametz, that will relieve him from making a bracha at the end of his meal before he benches. So after the meal, he decides to drink more wine. He's good. He already made a bracha beforehand. Pasha, right? Exactly. He makes a bracha on the parperes. It's a big malchik is what parperes is. Before you eat, the nasharai, whatever you eat, the guy eats snacks before the meal. We'll see to machlek Rashi Taisus. That relieves you from making a bracha after you finish eating, from having ice cream after the meal. If you made a bracha on bread, you don't have to make a bracha on parperes. If you made a bracha on these snacks, that doesn't pat you for making a bracha on bread. Even not a maisa kedera. We're going to see some machlekes in the gemorah. What is Beis Shammai talking about over here? Maisa kedera means your soup, right? It doesn't pat you from soup. Or the soup doesn't part you. It's a machlekes. We're going to see. Hayeshim kol echad. Hayeshim. They're sitting down. Kol echad mevorach la'atzma. You're sitting down. Everyone makes a bracha for himself. Hesebu. If they're leaning, they used to lean when they ate in those days. Echad mevorach lekulam. One guy makes a bracha for everyone. So we'll take a look in this tesis over here. What is this parperes business? Bracha lapas places a parperes. Take a look at the second line. V'Rashi Pirish. Parperes is mine dogim or pargios. Parperes means fish, chicken, v'ksas kasha. Taisaz, what's he talking about? Imke Michael Mashmalan. What's the chiddush? The bracha lapes like patas apas. The Mishnah says you make a bracha on chicken, it doesn't pat you from pas. Of course you can't make a bracha shakol. You make a shakol on the chicken. Of course it doesn't pat you from making a bracha on bread. The near kabish ben chanal, the bishpa paras is pas tsnuma bakara. It's some type of bread that's, fried in a bowl. The leis by teresa denama. It doesn't have a tzuras alechem. It doesn't look like bread anymore. The bracha of bayim and you make on that a bracha of bayim and and the chiddush is if you make a bracha on bread, you don't have to make a bayim and on the parparis, on this fried whatever it is, donuts, right? But if you made a bracha on the donuts, if you made a bracha on the donuts, if you made a bracha on the bread, it's about the donuts. Bracha la pas patas a paperes. La paperes loy patas a pas. Donuts won't pat you from bread. Okay. And take a look at the next place. It's also interesting about leaning. What's this leaning business? Tais says a seibu ein varach kolam, echam varach kolam. Take a look at Taisus, Polim Taisus. Ve'ein lana seiba ela bepas bilvad. You only lean when you eat bread, but bread doesn't itself need leaning. Why? In those days, whenever they ate bread, they used to lean on the left, they used to lean to the side and eat. So Taisus is telling us two things. Why do you have to lean? In order for one guy to pater everyone else. In order for it to be considered a group meal, if each one's sitting down, sitting upright, each one makes his own brachas hamazon. But if they're leaning, that means they ate together, and then echad mevarach kulan. If they're eating together, one guy used to be mevarach for everyone, right? But that's only if you're leaning, because that's a kfir suda. But nowadays, where we don't lean, yeshivs shalanu, says Taisvis, have a kfir lanu. If we sit together at one table, that's called we're being kfir suda. We're eating together. They used to eat in bed and lying down on the fancy chaise longues. That's how they used to eat a proper meal together. Now everyone had their own table, Taisa says, but nowadays we all eat on one table sitting down, and I think we should keep it like that. Says Says the Mishnah, turn a page. Man base on a base. Back in the Mishnah. If they bring a guy wine in the middle of a meal, so everyone makes his own bracha on the yain. Each one takes the cup of wine, if they bring wine after the meal before Birchas Hamazon again, Achar Mazain. So Rashi here says, sorry, one guy makes a bracha for everyone. Rashi says Lachar Suda. He's got a different girsa here than we have. Lachar Suda, Rashi says Lachar Birchas Hamazon. So if they bring you wine after you've benched, Echad Mevarach L'Kulam, one guy makes a bracha for everyone. Now, Vuhu, the guy that made the bracha on the wine for everyone, Hu Aimala Mugbar. He makes the bracha on the mugbar. They used to smoke some type of bong after the meals. So the guy that made the bracha on the yayin, they gave him also the cover to make the bracha on the reach, on the psamim of this smoky, whatever it was, on the cigars that they smoked after the meals. I guess it's a very old minig. Even though you only bring this pipe after the meal, still the guy that made the bracha, he gets the cover. He makes the bracha on the smelly stuff also. Let's take a look at the gemorah. Gemorah says, when is this Mishnah talking about? It's talking about Shabbos. Since people drink wine in the meal, so that's the din. Take a look in Rashi. The a person has intention to sit down and drink after he's eaten. When you make a bracha before the meal on wine, you have das, you have intention. So it's a Shabbos meal. You have some wine before the meal. That patters you for making a bracha after your meal on Shabbos. Why? Only on Shabbos, because you know it's a Shabbos meal. You're going to sit down, you're going to drink wine. Yeah, you're having a good time. You're having a farbrengen after the meal. Shabbos, Yom Tov. But during the week, Aval B'Shai, it says the gemorah, people drink wine with a Suda. Aval B'Shai, Shana, on a regular Monday afternoon. You got to make a bracha on each cup of wine. That's a big chiddush. Why? Because we're going to see. Itmanami, Amar of Amari, Amar of Yeshua ben Levi, Loishana, Bashmas Yom Tayvim, Bashas Adam Yetzim, Vesa Merchat, Bashas Akaz's Dam. You only have to make the yayin before, only relieves you from the bracha afterwards, after the Suda, Shabbos Yantav, or if you do Akaz's Dam, Vesa Merchat, where you drink wine. It's interesting, I just had a machlekes with a guy, someone was saying that bloodletting is so dangerous he should do it. And I did research, and it seems like it's actually supposed to be very, very healthy. Even nowadays, people do it to lower blood pressure and to relieve cholesterol. They say it's a proper medical procedure, but it's a real thing that people with certain conditions they take blood, and if you Google donating blood, they'll tell you all the benefits of donating blood is scientifically proven to help cardiovascular issues. So yeah. Okay, so interestingly, what do we do nowadays? The Rosh says, the Rosh lived in France, and they were big wine drinkers in France, right? They had a lot of wine. So the Rosh says, if people drink wine every meal during the week, right? He doesn't say like us, but he says, but if you drink wine every day, right? In the time of the gemorah and the Talmud, wine was very, very expensive. You see that. It was, a luxury. But in the time of the Rosh, I guess, in France in the 11th century, 12th century, they had wine. So Rosh says, if someone drinks wine during the meal, so it's like Shabbos, so he doesn't have to make a bracha, it's got the same thing as Shabbos. And the Mishnah Berurah goes all the way to the other extreme. The Mishnah Berurah says, nowadays, we don't even drink wine on Shabbos, so if you drink wine before the meal, you got to make a bracha on wine after the meal. It doesn't bother you, you don't have das on that, because we don't drink wine on Shabbos during the meal anymore. So you got the two extremes. I guess it's totally on the past, it's totally in your das. If you normally drink wine in a meal, the wine before you wash will bother you from the bracha afterwards. If not, then not. It's all tali in your das. There's no Xeris or Kosovo over here. Just take a look in Rashi, Kol Kais Kais. Why would you have to make a bracha on every single cup of wine you eat? So Rashi says, Al Kol Kais Kais, Davak Nimlach. As soon as you put your cup of wine down, you're like, that's it, I'm done. During the week, you have a cup of wine, I'm finished. You want another cup of wine? You want more wine later? You're going to make another bracha. It's like you put it down. You said, okay, I'm not drinking anymore. Okay. Back to Gemara. Says the Gemara, he went to his house on a weekday. They saw he made a bracha before they ate. He made a bracha after they ate. Before benching. Yasha, he said, you're doing good. And that's what Reb Levi says. Do you have to make a bracha both? Because it was weekday, right? He didn't go on Shabbos. He went during the week, so he made a bracha before, he made a bracha afterwards. Right? He went to his house on Yontif. He saw on Yontif, he made a bracha on each cup of wine. Every time on Yontif, he took a cup of wine, made a bracha. Our Mishnah says Shabbos and Yontif, you don't have to make a bracha on each cup. It's part of the Suda. So, you don't think that, you don't hold like Reb Levi? That we saw that you're potter on Shabbos and Yontif from everything in the meal. Nimlachana. I stopped drinking. That's why when I took another cup of wine, I got to make another bracha. In other words, it's totally an individual. It's not like a general rule. Shabbos, you never have to make a bracha. If on Shabbos you say I'm not drinking anymore, then you decide to take another cup of wine, you got to make another bracha.
What if you just drink all day?
One bracha. Let's do Purim. We're coming up to Purim and boiling the taiva. You make one bracha. As long as you don't stop, the bracha lasts for 48 hours. You know, good luck.
If you go to someone else's house?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your das was when you started drinking that you're moving around with it. Then yeah. Okay. If your das was you're gonna drink here and that's it, then I think no. I think you're done. You got to make another bracha where you go there. It's like when you wash. If you make a moitzi and you have das, you're gonna eat. You're walking around with a shwama. No, I'm getting a no. What am I getting wrong? So if you make a moitzi and you have das to walk around, then you have to make a bracha everywhere you go, huh? Now, it could be you do have to make a. I'm not sure. I don't know. It could be you have to make a bracha if you change your place. Shini makkah maybe it's not the time. With a moitzi, it's for sure your yotza. But I think with wine also. It says the gemorah. With the two dots? Yeah. Ibailuhu. They asked, it says, Balem yain b'teicha mazayin. My shift says, yain shalacha mazayin. A guy makes a bracha on yayin while he's eating. Right? Balem yain b'teicha mazayin. My shift is yain shalacha mazayin. So this is a new case. He made a bracha on yain in the middle of the meal. He's eating. He's in the middle of his chicken soup. He gets a cup of wine, right? Will that pater him from a bracha after the meal, at the end of the meal? You think to yourself, what's the difference, right? Why not? So the Gemara says, you're going to tell me I'll prove you from the Mishnah. It says, even if you make a bracha before you start eating, that relieves you from a bracha after you eat. Right? So why should make a bracha while you're eating? Beni was. If you make a bracha before you start eating, you make a baypreg ofen before you wash.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to make another baypreg ofen after the meal, before benching, right? Before benching, you're about to drink a cup of wine after the meal. Sit down to drink your wine before brachas hamazon. So you're good. You don't have to start making another bracha. You made a bracha beforehand. So now what have you?
So you're saying that in Birchas Hamazon, when you bench bezumen, and you have a kos, and you make a bracha,
you make the bracha after you bench, not before you bench.
You still make the bracha after you bench.
After you bench, once you bench, that's it. Once you bench, you clear the table, you wiped away the brachas you made before, the bar briagofen from beforehand. Now you got to make another bar briagofen on the cup of wine. But before you bench, let's say a guy gives you the cup of wine to make a zimun, and you can't hold yourself back. You just drink it beforehand. You're good. That's fine. if you had wine beforehand. So what happens? You made a bracha on yain in the middle of the Suda. Well, that party from the wine of the cup of wine they give you to do benching on, to do zimun on, right? So it says the gemorah, you're going to prove to me from the Mishnah. That's because the wine before the meal and the wine after the meal, they're both for the same reason. They're both to drink. In this case, where you're drinking in the middle of the meal, you don't want to drink wine now. You're just trying to help the food go down, right? You're just trying to soak up the food. You're just trying to, you're thirsty, the meal, you got food stuck in your throat, you're drinking wine, you make a bracha by Priyagofen while you're eating, right? So maybe, if you made that by Priyagofen, that's not going to be good enough. Or do we say there's no nafka mina? It's a bit of a machlekes. Who cares if it's why you're making it by Priyagofen? Is it lishtais or lishtais? You're doing it because you want to drink wine, you feel fancy, or is it because you want to be sheira the food, you want to soak the food's got to swim, as they say, right? What's enough minutes? So some say it's a less chosh of a bracha. The bracha itself isn't a bracha like I'm trying to enjoy wine now. You don't want to enjoy the wine. You just want to let the food go down smoothly, right? So that's why it says the bracha is not such a good bracha. So therefore, now you want to afterwards sit down and drink your fancy wine. Now you got to make another bar priyagofen. That's the idea. That's one opinion. The other opinion is that because the wine that they gave in the middle of the meal just to have the food go down, that was a cheap wine. It wasn't a good wine. That was like, sug bet, as they say, or sug gimel, right? After the meal, they bring out the 20-year aged wine, whatever it is. I don't know what's a good wine or not, right? The Chardonnay. That's what they bring after the meal. And the meal, they're giving you like the cheap, whatever it is, right? The stuff they sell for as well. So there's a sheet of the Ra'ah says something interesting. He says the wine you have in the middle of the meal, it's called din achila. It's not shtia. You're right, you make a bar priyagofen because it's like you're eating. You're not drinking. Afterwards, you got to make a bar priyagofen because you're drinking. Interesting. So one's lishtais, one's lishtais. Says the gemorah of Kana Amar Eine Paiter. Sorry, we'll start with Rav. Rav Amar Paiter. Rav says it patters. If you made a bar priyagofen in the middle of the meal, it relieves you from making bracha at the end of the meal. Rav Kana Amar Eine Paiter doesn't patter. Rav Nachman Amar Paiter. Rav Sheshes Amar Eine Paiter. Rav Yehuda V'chol Tamidim of Rav. All the Tamidim of Rav said Eine Paiter. Notice before Rav says paiter. Now his talmidim chol talmidei Rav are eine paiter. So what's going on over here? If Rav says paiter, so why did his talmidim argue with him and say eine paiter? So the Rosh says because they said that's not what Rav said. The talmidim is saying Rav didn't say that. Rav says eine paiter. In that case, according to everyone, basically it's eine paiter. Okay, Eisivei. Right? It says in the Brisa. If the wine came in the middle of the meal, each one makes his own bracha. It says in the Mishnah, sorry. Each one makes his own bracha, right? La'achar mazon, at the end of the meal, echad mevarach lekulam. And the gemorah wants to say from this Mishnah, what are we talking about here? That they first made a bracha in the middle of the meal, each one makes his own bracha, and then they brought the more wine at the end of the meal, and it says one guy makes a bracha for everyone. So the case of the Mishnah wasn't two cases. It wasn't two stories. That again, the Mishnah says, in the middle of the meal, each one makes his own bracha. At the end of the meal, one guy makes a bracha. So you think there's two separate cases. The Gemara is saying, no, it's two cases. It's one case. They first each made their own bracha. They first make their own bracha, and then afterwards, one guy makes a bracha for everyone. So you see from here that, why is he making a bracha afterwards? You see, even though he made a bracha in the middle of the meal, he's got to make a bracha at the end. No, it's two different cases. One case is where each one made a bracha in the middle of the meal. The other case is where they didn't bring wine in the middle of the meal. They only brought wine at the end of the meal. Then one guy makes a bracha for everyone. It's not one long story. He made a bracha on bread. It relieves you from the parperes. But the parperes doesn't part you from pas. You got to still make a bracha pas. That was the Mishnah, right? What is this Beis Shammai talking about? Interestingly, we don't usually try and make a whole deal in what Beis Shammai is saying. But the whole point here is to understand the other side, what Beis Hillel arguing on, right? Says the Gemara, what's Beis Shammai talking about? Elayu. Beis Shammai, a ratio pligi? Or you don't want to say pligi? What's the argument? The ratio is safer. We're going to explain. The Tanakama says, Birach ala pas. You made a bracha on bread, pasas papares. It's going to relieves you from making a bracha, according to Rashi, on your fish, on your meat, according to Taisus, on your whatever it is, your fried donuts. For kol shekain, ma'aser kedera. All the more so, ma'aser kedera, right? It patters the papares. It patters you from making a bracha on fish, and it for sure patters you from making a bracha on your porridge, right? You don't need to tell me. You don't need to come and tell me that the paparas leipatra lupas and I feel ma'aser kedera nami leipatra. You don't need to tell me that the chicken isn't parted from once you make a bracha on bread. And I feel ma'aser kedera nami leipatra. If you make a bracha on bread, you're not even parta on ma'aser kedera. You're still going to make a bracha on. Now you have a chulent. You're going to make a bracha on the chulent also. That's what Beis Shammai is saying. In other words, what? Beis Hillel says if you make a bracha on bread, you don't have to make a bracha on papares. You don't have to make a bracha on the papares is not parted from the pas according to Beis Hillel. Okay? So according to Beis Hillel, if you make a bracha on the bread, you have to make a bracha on the ice cream. Beis Shammai says you've also got to make a bracha on. You've also got to make a bracha not just on ice cream. You've got to make a bracha on chulent also, on your porridge, whatever it is. That's the first option. I don't know. Sefer pligi. Beis Shammai is arguing on the sefer. Diktani. Then what does it say? Birach ala papares loy patas apas. Let's talk about the case where he made a bracha on the papares. He made a bracha on the ice cream. Loy patas apas. According to Beis Hillel, that doesn't. You make a bracha on ice cream. You still got to make a bracha maitzi. Pass to the loy patar. You got to make a bracha on bread. You don't have to make a bracha on bread, but if you have now your cholent, you pater on that. It doesn't even pater ma'aser kedera. So the question is, are we talking about you made a bracha on the papas, you made a bracha on the pas? What's the maskana? It's a gemorah teku. We don't know what Beis Shammai is talking about. Teku. And Farshim explained that when the gemorah says teku, it means that you can't prove it. There's no way to prove or disprove. Even if you come up with a raya, it's nothing. The Gemara paskas teku. If the Gemara leaves as a suffix, you can bring a raya and say, okay, the Gemara had a suffix. I'm like this. But when the Gemara says teku, it means there's no way to establish one way or the other. Wow, we're very late. Shkoyach, have a wonderful day.
Question for you.